Is there anything more gorgeous than a tiara? And we have some really incredible ones within the Spanish royal family. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Royal Fashion News. My name is Brittany, and today we're going to go over the tiaras in the main line of the Spanish royal family. Yes, we haven't really done a video like this quite yet, and I was going to actually start off with the British royal collection, but I have a video that I did earlier going over some of the new impossible tiaras Catherine and Camilla could wear, and then I realized I covered a lot of the tiaras in the collection that we haven't seen much of, so I was like, I feel like this is retreading ground. So instead, we are going to start with the Spanish because I have not focused on them much. And I thought it would be great to give you guys an overall view of the different tiaras within each family. That way, you guys can have an idea. And then we'll go into deep dives into every one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with one of the big guns, as we call them. And this is the Fleur de Lys tiara. So this is one of the biggest in the Spanish royal collection. It's also called the La Buena, or the good one. And this was a wedding gift to Princess Victoria Eugenie of Battenberg when she married her husband, King Alfonso XIII of Spain in 1906. She ended up wearing this tiara on her wedding day, and it is one of the grandest in the Spanish collection. And so Spain actually dissolved its royal family officially in 1931, and most of them went into exile. And so this particular tiara, it was worn by Queen Victoria Eugenie, also known as Edna, throughout the rest of her life, even in exile. And she passed this particular tiara on to her family in 1969 when she passed away. And once the monarchy was restored in 1975, it was worn by Spanish queens ever since, although there were technically only two, and this includes former Queen Sofia and current Queen Letizia. And it is a beautiful, delicate piece. It's tall and it's grand, but it also has a lot of see-through. So it's not as solid diamond as some of them are at that size, but it's a really gorgeous piece. We also saw this tiara with Queen Letizia when she did her state visit to the United Kingdom. This was a tiara that she wore. I almost feel like it's too much for her. It's too tall. She's rather tall, actually, but she's very, very tiny. And so she almost looks better, I think, in some of the smaller pieces rather than some of the grander ones, just because it seems to overwhelm her otherwise. But on to one of our next ones, which is quite large and impressive. And this is Queen Maria Christina's Cartier Loop Tiara. We saw this one most recently on Queen Letizia during a state visit. Unfortunately, she also wore a mask with this tiara the vast majority of the time. And I'm like, oh, the mask. The mask. Tiara's a mask. There's nothing worse than a tiara and a mask. It just ruins the whole look. And so this was a wedding present to Archduchess Maria Christina of Austria when she married Alfonso XII of Spain in 1879. This would be the father-in-law and mother-in-law of the other queen who we just mentioned with the Fleur de Lys. And so then it went on to be a wedding gift to Princess Maria de las Mercedes of Bourbon to Sicilies. Yes, that is a long, long title. When she married Infante Juan, who was the Count of Barcelona in 1935. And so she regularly wore this tiara and eventually gave it to her daughter-in-law, Queen Sofia. And this is the one that she wore quite a bit and is now being worn by Queen Letizia of Spain. And I like this one better on her than the other one that we just mentioned, the Fleur de Lys. I think it fits her a bit better, even though it's grander. I feel like not quite as tall, but it is a stunningly beautiful piece, and she's just started wearing this. She's just started to, Queen Letizia, dip her toes into some of the grander ones within the Spanish collection. The next tiara we have is a gorgeous Cartier diamond and pearl tiara. So this one is also from the 1920s, and it was given to Queen Edna as a wedding present from her mother-in-law. Emeralds could also be put in the tiara, and the emeralds ended up getting sold during exile. So like I said earlier, the Spanish monarchy went into exile. But what was interesting as well is the dictator who was ruling Spain at the time, he actually took Juan Carlos, who was the former king, put him under his wing, and he was supposed to inherit Spain as a dictator, basically. And once Juan Carlos came to power after Franco died, he gave the country back to the people. And that's why Juan Carlos was so loved. But this was the cost of some of that exile, is the disruption of some of these tiaras. I think this is a beautiful piece. Queen Letizia wore it for the first time in 2018, and she wore it with this lovely and amazing pearl and navy dress. I love that she chose this dress to wear with that tiara. I think it is absolutely incredible. This was also loaned to Infanta Cristina for the wedding of Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, and that was the only time she wore it. Infanta Cristina is one of Juan Carlos's daughters. So again, this is one pretty much reserved just for the queen. I don't think we'll see this tiara on anyone except for perhaps the Princess of Asturias, which is Queen Letizia's daughter, and she will one day be Queen of Spain. Next, we have the Mellerio shell tiara. I really do love this. You get the shell motif. It is perfect, spot on, but also not too overwhelming. And this is another one, which is a rather ancient tiara. It was given as a wedding gift for Queen Isabella II of Spain to her daughter Infanta Isabella. And it was obviously worn as well by Queen Edna, and she also loaned it to her daughter-in-law, the Countess of Barcelona. So when it came to Queen Sofia, the former Queen of Spain, who was still much beloved in the country, even though her husband, unfortunately, even though he was much loved, he also got caught up in a lot of scandals and was summarily pushed off the throne, ironically. Even though he gave the throne back to the people, he ended up being pushed off it for his own reasons. Anyway, so Sofia inherited this piece. It was given as a wedding present to her, and she wore it at her wedding ball, and she's worn it many times, and she's also lent it to her sister-in-law, Infanta Margarita, and her daughters, and Queen Letizia as well has worn this tiara. I think it's a gorgeous piece. Like I said, amazing, beautiful. I love the shell motif. We don't see too much of that, and I think it actually really works there. It could be a little too much, but I think it really works. Okay, next we have the Prussian tiara, and we won't talk about this one too much because we actually talked about the Prussian tiara rather recently. This was the one Queen Letizia wore at her wedding, and it was also worn by Queen Sofia of Spain at her wedding. This was a gift by Kaiser Wilhelm to his only daughter, Princess Victoria Louise, in 1913. And it ended up being given as a wedding gift to her daughter, Queen Frederica of Greece, and then was given to her daughter, Queen Sofia of Spain. So we got daughter, 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 and daughter-in-law. This one has been worn by quite a few of the royal women, so this one has been shared. I like this tiara because it has a bit of the kokoshnik style, which is a Russian influence, and yet at the same time, it also has a Greek influence. So it has this really neat mixture. I think that is absolutely lovely. Okay, now on to one of my favorite tiaras in the Spanish collection. That is the floral tiara, and this was another wedding gift. Yes, tiaras and weddings go together like peanut butter and jelly. If you are American, you get that. If you are not an American, maybe you don't. But think of the two things that go together the best ever, and that's what you'll come up with here. So this was a gift from King Alfonso XII of Spain to his bride, Archduchess Maria Cristina of Austria. And unfortunately, this one actually did end up getting sold in the 1930s during exile. Again, they needed some money. This one actually could be a necklace. I think it's a gorgeous piece. We've seen Queen Letizia wear it several times. And what happened, which was rather interesting, is Francisco Franco actually bought it in 1962. And it was his wedding gift to the people of Spain for Princess Sofia of Greece. So for her marriage to Infante Juan Carlos, who ended up becoming king. And so it's really rather interesting to see that come full circle, that he was able to purchase one of those pieces that went into exile, even though, again, he was a dictator, yet he also deposed the monarchy, yet also took the future king under his wing. Just fascinating, fascinating stuff. We'll definitely have to get into that story on our main channel, Royal News Network. If you guys haven't been over there, you should definitely check it out. I'll put a link up there as well. So then now Queen Sofia wore it as a necklace to her wedding, and she wore it several times throughout her reign. And Queen Letizia, I think it's one of her favorites. We see her wearing this quite a bit, and one of my favorite appearances of this is during the wedding of Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden. She had done this gorgeous braiding. I loved her hair at that event. I thought it was absolutely fabulous. And so I thought it was a perfect moment. Okay, next we have, and this is one that's actually owned by Infanta Elena. So this is one of the daughters of King Juan Carlos. She is actually older than her brother so a brother will supersede his sister's siblings. And so this is a case in Spain, as we have Infanta Cristina and Elena. And so Elena received this gift from her father and mother-in-law. It's called the Marichalar tiara. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And she wore it for the first time in 1994 to her wedding and has worn it a lot ever since. And she wore it, obviously, as well to the wedding of Crown Princess Victoria. That was one of the biggest royal wedding events that we've had in Europe in quite a while. I would almost say it rivals Catherine and William's, to be quite honest, just because so many royals came. And the second to last tiara we are talking about today is the Ansorena Princess Fleur de Lys tiara. I'm not a big fan of this. It looks somewhat chintzy, I hate to say. There's so many better ones. So this was made by Ansorena, and it has pearl and diamond tiaras and the Fleur de Lys, which is the symbol of the House of Bourbon, which is obviously the House of Spain. And apparently this is one that Letizia personally owns, or is actually part of her collection, which makes sense because oftentimes the tiaras that enter into royal families now are actually quite small. Just because of the cost involved in everything, we don't see these grand pieces anymore. And I think, honestly, some of the art of making a tiara has been completely lost. She wore this tiara for the first time to the 75th birthday gala of Queen Margrethe of Denmark in 2015. Apparently, it was a 5th anniversary present for his wife. And she can actually take the Fleur de Lys element off and use it as a brooch. But again, there's a lot of questions, and I understand why she was somewhat hesitant to wear this, especially because if she got it in 2009, so that might have been not an opportunity to wear it. And it also had perhaps some connections to her brother-in-law, who again was doing some underhanded dealing. Okay, guys, so next we have probably our last tiara in here that is part of the royal family, and I saved it for last, not because it's the best, but because it's the smallest and kind of the wrinkliest. We most recently saw this tiara at the wedding of Crown Prince Hussein of Jordan, and I have to say, I saw this, I was like, ooh, this is one of those ones where the felt base of the tiara is just way too big, and it shows up way too much. I don't know why Queen Sofia has not fixed this, but this was a wedding gift from Stavros Niarchos. Yes, that name may sound familiar if you're familiar with the early 2000s. Paris Hilton and I believe Mary-Kate Olsen both dated one of the Niarchos. This was another Stavros Niarchos, not the same one, because this guy was much younger than the original one who gave away this piece, and it's from Van Cleef and Arpels, and there is actually a similar tiara that Princess Grace of Monaco has worn. I do have to say, this is just very underwhelming. It is. I think she needs to adjust the base or something. It just doesn't look great. I think this one looks much better as a necklace, just does not look great as a tiara. That felt thing is huge. They really need to figure out how to fix it because it ain't working. But this rounds up the tiaras in the Spanish collection. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing you guys really soon. Bye.